Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending today's open forum. We have two important items on the agenda this afternoon. The first one, which I will present, and that will be the actions taken by the Board of Trustees on October 3rd, and what that means in terms of the action the college is going to have to be taking over the next several weeks. The second part of the forum today will be devoted to preparation for accreditation, and that will be led by Deb Wulff and Kevin Bontenbal. So let me just take a few minutes and talk about the action the board took. The board did approve the show cause report and the closure report, and those documents are now in with the printer. And what we're going to be talking about today is Gap 1. Gap 1 is how do we prepare the institution from the submittal of the report to the visit. And then later on, not today, but we'll talk about Gap 2. And that is what do we do as an institution from the visit to the time the commission meets. And of course, the big gap is the forever gap. And that is, how does the college sustain its commitment to and its belief and compliance with the accreditation standards? Not on an emergency basis, but on a day-to-day basis. Okay. The other thing the board approved on October 3rd was a long-term budget reduction plan, which is part of our recommendation 7 within our accreditation report. And that recommendation long-term plan had two elements to it, two options. One, if Prop 30 passed, and what if Proposition 30 failed, both of which have monumental impacts on how we operate as a college. And the most important part of that impact is how do we redefine who we are and what we do and what programs and services we offer to our students. It involves reducing the footprint of the college. And if Proposition 30 fails, it means a massive change in what we do and what we provide for students. We're now, you read the email that I sent to you the end of last week about the process that we're going to be following in terms of the program discontinuance or reduction process. Tomorrow I'll be sending a proposal to College Council, which is the body that has the overview of programs. I'm going to be suggesting to them that our current administrative procedure 4021, which deals with revitalization, suspension, and discontinuance of programs, is not sufficient under a program elimination process. So I'm going to be asking them in my proposal to modify 4021 so that it will work for us within the time frame that we have to move in. Because we have to have those decisions made before we put together finalize the spring schedule, the summer schedule, and fall schedule of next year. And that involves staffing, that involves decisions on employees, whether or not they're on a reduction list or whether they're on a layoff list. And so the timing is critical. So this is what you can expect. So on October 16th, the College Council is having a special meeting to consider my proposal. On October 23rd, they will be considering an ordered list of programs, as many as 29 programs out of the 75 programs that we offered that are potential programs to be eliminated, and they will be in an order based on the evaluation and the criteria that are listed in 4021 as well as the long-term budget reduction plan. Their job will then be to collect other qualitative information from program managers, and by November 13th they will rank order the programs that are being recommended for elimination. as a proposal to me. Now, under AP 4021, it's my responsibility and authority to either accept that recommendation, modify it, or reject it. So I'll be making a determination on that list that's been submitted to me, and if it's different from what was recommended to me, then I will report back to the College Council as to why I modified the list. I will then take that list and I will make a proposal to Planning and Budget Committee, who will review the list from a budgetary standpoint. How far do we have to go down the list in order to meet the fiscal realities that we'll be facing post November 6th? And they'll be asking Planning and Budget Committee to make a recommendation to me by December 4th, so that I will take a recommendation to the Board of Trustees at December 12th for action and implementation. So that's the time frame that we've laid out. And we'll be publishing all of this once the College Council has an opportunity to review and take action on the process that we'll follow, and that'll be on the 16th. Now, it's also important to know that this is just the first wave of meeting the $2.8 million shortfall if Prop 30 fails. And that only means, that's about 1.5 million of that 2.8. There's another 1.3 million that we'll also have to deal with in a subsequent budget reduction plan that will involve operational costs and other staffing in order to meet that $2.8 million challenge. So, and we have to have a recommendation ready for the board no later than March or April. March for some situations, April from others, depending upon staffing situations. So that's the impact that we're facing, and there's a lot up in the air based on what happens on November 6th. So I can't tell you how to vote, but I can tell you what the impact is going to be about if Prop 30 fails. It's going to be devastating to California public education. I'm going to vote yes on Proposition 30. And I'll let you be your judge as to what you choose to do and how you influence your friends and neighbors about what's in the best health of California. So, with that exciting introduction to this session today, I want to first of all give Deb and Kevin a great big thanks for the leadership that they have provided over the last 9 months in preparation for where we are today. It's been, and many of you have been, right alongside helping them and helping the institution learn how to be compliant, getting on board, being a workhorse when called upon, and delivering the information that was needed in order for them to do their job of preparing the institution for this response. We will know this week who the team members are, according to the Commission office. And they will be here on the 29th and 30th. And with that said, I'll turn it over to Deb and Kevin. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Oh my goodness. Thank you for all coming. We have come a long way in 8 months. It's unbelievable what we've accomplished. We have done 10 reports. 10 serious, in-depth reports you can find on the accreditation website. You can go to the accreditation website. We do have a website with everything that has happened. We have finished the show cause report, and probably, yeah, that is huge. It's at the printer today, and it will be sent out. We have to send 10 copies out with thumb drives, 4 to ACCJC and 6 to the visiting team members. So that is a lot more than we ever expected when we first started. People have done a tremendous amount of work. My gosh, I think that if you looked at Accreditation Steering Committee, they've read over about 20,000 pages. And you don't even count all the people that have done particular work. Tony Summer probably got 27 calls a day for evidence. You know, Janice House, about 30 calls a day on evidence. Everybody who's put in and written, and I just can't even tell the amount of work, marketing for coming in on the weekend all day Sunday and trying to make the report look pretty. Thank you very much. I hope you like the way it looks. So they worked very hard. So Casey Kirchhoff, who's here all day Saturday, checking every link in that report. And so we have about over 200 pieces of evidence, but we cite it multiple times. And so the list goes on and on. I just can't thank everyone for all of your work over this this academic year, this past spring and academic year. So thank you very much. But we're here for accreditation. And I want to tell you that we have supplemental materials in the back for you, and we also have the Cougar notes. Casey, where are those? Oh,
the chair in the back.
The chair in the back. So you can, when you go out, you can get the supplemental information. I do want to tell you that I know we sent out an email, and we're going to ask everybody to post it, the picture to everybody, but we're at 100% proficiency. Unbelievable amount of work. You know, I know student services and admin services were ahead of us in academics, but academics have really pulled through, and the work is unbelievable, and how it'll be all together to see for the visiting team, and looks very organized. So thank you, and I have to thank Kevin for helping with that. I mean, Kevin's been amazing. I can't tell you how much work Kevin has done over this last 8 months, and I really appreciate working with him. Thank you, Kevin. So I do want to say that accreditation is all the time, and starting on Monday, Kevin and I will be working with Accreditation Steering Committee to start the 2014 self-evaluation report. So be ready. We always need more members, and you'll be asked to volunteer to work on a standard. So please accept that challenge. So I'm going to leave it over to you, and you can start.
Great, thank you. Well, I will have to congratulate Deb and honor her for all the work that she's done, because certainly the institution would not be in the place that it is today related to accreditation without her leadership and guidance in that effort. So thank you, Deb. It's been great working with you, and sounds like we got more stuff to do. Perfect. Well, what we wanted to do today was kind of go through some of the accomplishments and highlights of what we've done as an institution to address the recommendations that put us on to show cause. And so this probably is going to be a little bit dry, perhaps, but we just wanted to get them out there in front of you. The handouts that Deb mentioned is a lot of what we're going to be talking about. So the items that are on those handouts for each of the recommendations are what we're going to be showing in the PowerPoint, as well as talking about integrated planning and some other aspects. So we're going to kind of be switching back and forth on these things, and we're going to run through the recommendations and the things that we've accomplished or done to satisfy those. And I'm going to start with recommendation 2, and I just want to read it so we're all clear as to what the recommendation is asking for. To meet the standards, the team recommends that the college complete the strategic plan, institute an ongoing systematic evaluation process that communicates and clarifies the assessment tools used to measure the effectiveness of ongoing planning, program review, resource allocation processes, and student learning outcomes. So this is one of the recommendations that we got all the way back in 2009, and it stayed with us all these the past few years. And so what we've actually done to address this recommendation is we completed an addendum to our educational master plan of 2011 and 2016. And what this did was really establish clear goals that were based on institutional challenges. So you may recall we held a workshop where we analyzed data to determine what are the challenges the district's facing, and then we developed a set of goals around that were part of the addendum to our educational master plan. We also, from that, developed the strategic plan that we're now living in for 2012-2014, and this strategic plan was based on those goals identified in the Educational Master Plan addendum. So what we did after developing those goals in that addendum was we developed institutional objectives that we thought were important for us as an institution to focus on over the next 2 years. And those are what are listed along with action steps of how we think we're going to reach those objectives in the strategic plan. We also closed out the 2010-13 strategic plan by doing a progress report. So we assessed all of the planning that occurred within that strategic plan and our operational plans. And then most importantly, we developed an integrated planning manual. And this is really the crux to addressing the recommendation 2. This defines, hopefully clearly, our planning processes, timelines, and how we're going to be accountable for these processes that we have in place. So we're going to talk a little bit more after we go through the recommendations about integrated planning and run through our model with you. But those are some of the things that we did as an institution to address recommendation 2. And then lastly, we completed these operational plans as a result of doing our strategic planning of 2010 to 2013. And so we completed, as you're probably aware, a technology plan, which was actually updated just last semester. We completed an equal opportunity employment plan. We completed a resource development plan. We completed an enrollment management plan, and we completed a long-term fiscal plan, just to mention a few of the things that we've done in addition to all the other work. And then now I'm going to turn it over to Deb, who's going to talk to us about Rec 6 and 7.
I hate to read this to you, and what's really difficult is when you read the standards and recommendations, there's always hidden meaning, believe it or not. They're never really clear and concise, like mission means effectiveness, institutional effectiveness. So as you go along through this, you start learning key words and what they mean. So recommendation 6, what they recommended was the college establish a process for regular and systematic planning, acquisition, maintenance, and replacement of its technology infrastructure, existing and newly acquired technology and equipment to meet institutional needs, and that the process is integrated with other college planning, assessment, resource allocation, the resource allocation process, and student learning outcomes. So I want to tell you something. In technology, we have done a very, very good job over the years, and people are kind of shocked by that. The problem was we really didn't identify what the commission wanted, or what the team wanted, and what the standards were. And we just needed to close a few little loopholes. So as you see, we've really cleaned up our processes on there. So we know that tech planning and resource allocation is integrated with our district planning. You know that. All of you are associated with your IPPR process, either your comprehensive or your annual program planning and review. You know that we have, years ago, we implemented the tech tab where you identified your technology needs. And then what you first did was identify what you requested last year and if it was funded and how it helped your program. And then you identify new needs that you have, and this is all part of the IPPR process. We also have, and that they had been doing it previously, and we're just writing about it now, and we're tweaking things. The tech committee reviewed all technology requests, and what they did is they have this beautiful matrix that they made, and they prioritize that list. And then from their recommendations, they send it to planning and budget. And planning and budget takes that into account when it's looking at prioritizing all the overall college needs and what is going to be funded, what are they prioritizing as our top needs. So that is all involved. We also have identified the needs district-wide. We know that we have the faculty survey, and we had been doing the faculty survey for quite some time. The current inventory data. So we have been doing this, but we never really displayed or talked about how we were doing this, but we always had an inventory and keeping track of that. At least we talked to it this time. And this all goes back to the standards of what you have to have. Evaluation of the work orders. They keep every work order. They have a complete list of how they filled the work order, etc. Some of the work orders they can't fill because we can't afford to do it. But there is a list in how we maintain that, and they evaluate that. And then just from the computer services, they self-identify in computer services of what issues that they do have at the college has and make recommendations from that. This is a big one, and we got very confused by this, is the Central Technology Fund. And so we have the tech committee that's done a lot of work, and, oh, I'm sorry, Jay, I'm moving. Anyway, the technology committee has done a lot of work. Well, if you look in the document, we have a lot of account lines in technology. They have, if you look at us compared to other institutions, we are right up there with the number of employees that we have. We haven't cut computer services. If you look at how we fund, we're right up there with likewise colleges. And so we also, though, for our technology needs within our institution, because our budget is so tight, we have $100,000, and that is from the foundation. They gave $152,000 this year, which is amazing. Thank you, foundation. But they have made a commitment of $100,000 annually to meet our tech needs at this institution, and that's replacing computers, right? Updating classrooms, acquiring the technology, needs that we have. So that is fantastic. Also, the medical administrative advisory income. This is a slow collection. So we started this program 2 years ago. We're just started to get the money from it this year, this academic year, from 2 years ago work. And as that money comes in, it will be applied to technology to help support our technology needs. Then we have the other thing that's really been done in Recommendation 6 is that the tech plan. So you've got to remember that we've been working on this tech plan for a long time, and they did have a tech plan every year, but it was more of a report than actually a planning document. So last year they worked on it, and in February of this year, February 12th, Janice took it to the Board of Trustees to be approved, and then we immediately made her revise it. So to make sure that it is in line with our institutional objectives. And so if you go into, I think it's Appendix A, correct, Janice? Appendix B, sorry, I should know that by heart. Appendix B, you will see how the initiatives in the tech plan are in line with our institutional objectives. And that's integrated planning, and that's what we're talking about. And when we get to the model, you can use that example of how we're pulling everything together. All right, Recommendation 7. This is a big one. This is about financial, and I'm sorry to read this to you. They recommend the college review and assess its long-range financial and capital planning strategies to ensure sufficient funding levels for ongoing operations. The team also recommends that the College Foundation review and communicate fiscal status of investments and implement appropriate protections to secure fiscal solvency. I should really be having Tony up here talking about this one. But what we did is we developed a long-term fiscal plan, 12-16. And what it did, it assessed all of our financial operations, and it's documented. And in this plan, you'll see that the district budget performance in the plan, the budget development is in the plan, long-term obligations, which we're talking about are COPS, pending capital needs, we're talking about buildings and other outlay, and then are all a part of that. Then we also addressed how we conserve and allocate financial resources to support student learning, mission goals, and distribution of financial resources to support the development, maintenance, and service of the district. So that sounds like a lot, but it's very simple, and it's all a part of the planning cycle. So in your IPPR, you define what you need in your department or your program. you forward your request based off of institutional goals or institutional objectives or student learning outcomes. Those are forwarded into your cluster. The cluster prioritizes your needs, whatever your needs are, and we prioritize it. And then we move it to budget, planning and budget. Oh my gosh, planning and budget. And from there, we prioritize. And we prioritize it off of a rubric. And this, we used the rubric last year, and we're using the rubric this year. And that rubric gives it points related to, does it support student learning outcomes? Does it support institutional goals? Does it support institutional objectives? Those are our college's plans and priorities. And so if it does, and we put it in there, then you're going to go much higher than somebody else. The other issue we have in there on the rubric is safety, of course, and health and safety. That's another criteria. But that's how it all plays together. So we have planned, we have identified what our needs are, we prioritize those off of the planning, our long-term planning for the institution, and then, and then we allocate, and then we assess. So it goes back to that. So we also finished the facilities master plan, which was a big one for recommendation 7. And we assessed and revised collaborative processes for our budget reduction. In 2 years, you all know, you're all suffering it, is the hard decisions that we have made for budget reductions to make sure that we are solvent, fiscally solvent. And then the last portion, and this has been one of the difficult ones all of the committees have been addressing, is the long-term budget reduction plan 13-17. And this relates directly back to what Gil was talking about earlier, about what we have to do on the academic side of the house and what we have to do on the operational side of the house. We have to live within our budget, and we have to prove to ACCJC that we can be solvent. We can live within our means for the next 5 years. And this is going to be a very difficult time for the institution to go through this process, but it's something that we have to go through. We're too big. We're living beyond our means. We're spending more money than we're bringing in. And so that is that long-term budget reduction plan. It has 2 portions, as Gil talked about, A and B, if Prop 30 passes and if Prop 30 does not pass. So that is 6 and 7.
Okay, well, earlier you heard Dr. Stork indicate that he couldn't tell you how to vote, but he was going to vote for yes on Prop 30. And so I'll let you know that I'm also planning to vote yes on Prop 30 and no on 38. So hopefully if I say it enough times, it might stick with you when you're at the booth, polling booth, and you remember, oh yes, yes on 30. Kevin's voting yes on 30 and no on 38. So again, what we're trying to do is just put out in front of you some of the key points that we've done to address these recommendations. We're obviously not going through in great detail everything that's in the 200-page show cause report. But those are the things that we've done to really meet the requirements of ACCJC in regards to the recommendations 2, 6, and 7 that they've given us. When we got placed on show cause, we were also told that we needed to meet the requirements of eligibility requirement 19. And this is a pretty big one, but it's really linked to planning and assessment for an institution overall. And so we are already doing quite a lot of the things that are related to eligibility requirement 19, but because it's linked to planning and assessment and really to all of the previous 3 recommendations, they added it on as another thing we had to respond to. And so let me just read you so you can hear what this requirement is asking for. The institution systematically evaluates and makes public how well and in what ways it is accomplishing its purposes, including assessment of student learning outcomes. The institution provides evidence of planning for improvement of institutional structures and processes, student achievement of educational goals and student learning. The institution assesses progress towards achieving its stated goals and makes decisions regarding improvement through an ongoing and systematic cycle of evaluation integrated planning, resource allocation, implementation, and re-evaluation. So when you hear that or you read that, you hopefully are thinking, well, gosh, we're already doing all of that. And based on what we just sort of went through and how we've addressed recommendations 2, 6, and 7, it seems pretty clear, at least to me, that, yeah, we're achieving all of those things and we're doing all those things. But let me just run through a few things in relationship to this eligibility requirement that we've written to in our show cause report. In this slide, when I was sitting down there, I was thinking this probably should be titled "What We Are Doing," not necessarily what we've done, because we have been doing a lot of these things all along. But what we're doing is we're systematically assessing how well we are accomplishing our purposes by implementing and assessing integrated planning. So in other words, we're ensuring that we're following the timelines and the processes that we've identified in the integrated planning manual. And again, we're going to talk in just a minute about integrated planning and our model. We also are ensuring that institutional planning and evaluation effectiveness is occurring on a regular basis through our comprehensive program planning and review cycle for all areas of the college. So you heard Deb talk about the PPR, the program planning and review process. And so we're ensuring that that is being used for institutional planning and evaluation effectiveness. If you're not aware, the institutional effectiveness and plan and budget committees regularly assess the overall effectiveness of institutional planning, program review, and student learning outcome assessment. So you heard Deb talk about the role that plan and budget plays in prioritizing institutional needs. And institutional effectiveness committee is also involved in some of those discussions that then drives resource allocation to ensure that we are being effective as an institution in meeting the needs of our mission and our students. These assessments occur in a regular cycle, and they've led to documented improvements in planning and resource allocation and the assessment processes themselves. So as we're continuously in this cycle where we're assessing and reevaluating, we're making improvements to the processes that we have in place, including our integrated planning model, which we will be assessing at the end of the year to determine where things may need to be fixed or tweaked with that model. And then if you're not aware of the reports, the progress reports, the one most recently from the Strategic Plan 2010-13, are available and published on the district's website, and then we'll be engaging in another reporting cycle this spring, 2013. So of course, student achievement of student learning outcomes, they're systematically assessed through course level and program level assessments that are documented in the program review process. As you may be aware, all programs record program level assessment analysis annually in their annual program planning worksheets, or APPWs as we like to refer to them as. And you heard Deb mention earlier that we're 100% proficient, and what that means is we are 100% proficient in the implementation of student learning outcomes at this institution for courses, degrees, certificates, and all programs. So that's really a significant achievement in a very quick time frame. At this time last year, I think when we did the survey that Ryan's office sends out, we were around 40-something% in terms of courses at implementing student learning outcomes. We're now at 100%. So the faculty have really done an outstanding job in stepping up and getting all that work done and ensuring that the college is at 100%. So I just want to thank the faculty publicly for the work that they've done in getting us there. And Sally Demarest and Greg Baxley, who are our SLO core coordinators, they've done a tremendous amount of work, as well as the deans and the division chairs and everyone. It's just been remarkable, the work that they've done in them. And so this work on student learning outcomes and assessment, it's documented in our course and program assessment summaries, or as we refer to them, CPAS documents. And these documents, the CPASs also include plans and efforts to improve student learning outcomes where warranted. The CPAS documents are also included in each program's comprehensive program plan and review report, and those are made public. on the institution's accreditation webpage. So you can go and actually look at what the CPPRs are reporting on. And then results from assessments of institutional learning outcomes ultimately serve to initiate dialogue as an institution around improving the educational experience for students who complete degrees, certificates, and programs. So that's really the crux of the whole student learning outcomes and assessment efforts, is to really find out where things can be improved so the experience of students, their learning, the services they're receiving can be modified and improved to improve their experiences here at Cuesta. So now we're going to talk a little bit about integrated planning. This, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is really critical to what we've done over the last year or so for recommendation 2, and all of them for that matter. And you've probably seen or heard us talk about integrated planning a few times now, but that's okay. Repetition is important, and hopefully it'll sink in after a few more times that we talk about this. And so integrated planning really is developing a process and being committed to implementing these processes, which are linked to the standards described by ACCJC. So it's developing these planning processes, implementing those, sticking to those planning processes to ensure that we're meeting what the accreditation standards are asking us to do. And that's to ensure that the planning process support continuous quality improvement, and that they themselves obviously need to be assessed regularly. And as a result of those assessments, the planning processes themselves are then revised. So that's kind of in a nutshell what at least ACCJC considers integrated planning to be. This is how we've interpreted that here at Cuesta, and so this is our integrated planning model, and hopefully this is imprinted on all of your brains by this point, or that you should be able to recite this in your sleep. And we're going to be going through this and talking about each of the elements of this planning model and what's occurring in each of those elements. But this is what our model looks like. And when we're all done, we have this little sheet, a few of these copies made, and we can certainly send out to everyone. I'd give it to you now, but then you'd fill in all of the bubbles as we're going through this. So we'll give it to you afterwards to ensure that you can actually fill this out and know what goes in each one of these bubbles or boxes. But just quickly, before we go into the model, I did want to mention, rather than to show you all of the institutional goals and the institutional objectives, once again, that you can find those on the accreditation website under planning documents. So if you don't have a copy of the strategic plan handy in your office or the addendum to the educational master plan, you can go onto the accreditation website and go there where it says planning documents, and you can find those plans and then take a look at what our institutional goals and objectives are. And Deb, I think you're up next.
I think that what's so tough about this is that I can go on and on. I could do 2 hours of all this, and I'm thinking, okay, what's the most important, and make it very brief for you. So if I go on and on, you need to just pull me off a little bit, because I get very excited about it. Kind of lived it, loved it. When you look at this model, what does it depict? It depicts the components of our planning processes. So if you can't remember anything, remember that. It depicts the components of our planning process, or just identifies the components of our planning processes. And they're all linked to one another. And what it is it's a cycle of evaluation, and it's how we developed our goals and our objectives and our resource allocation, and our planning and our implementation and our reevaluation. And it's through this regular sequence of these planning practices that we assess our institutional effectiveness. This is how we assess if we've met our mission or not. And so it's a very important part. And when you look at institutional effectiveness and you look at the components and we assess the cycle over and over again, it is what's supposed to come from that is continuous improvement. That's what we're looking for. Are we better than we were last year? Are we better than we were the year before? Are we better than the year before that? And hopefully, as we do this and we get better and better at it, we'll become a better and better institution where we're helping our students succeed. That's why we're here. It's for our students to be successful. So if you look in here, okay, because I'm kind of getting off here. Let me move on. So first portion is mission. So if we look down here, the data analysis. Research is the central component, and everything is based off of data. So if you look at how we developed our institutional goals, what we did and we should have done before an educational master plan, but in our addendum, we looked at our data and we looked to see what are our challenges. So data is the center of every component in this. You know, we develop all of our outcomes off of data. We develop all of our planning off of data. Look at, you just received your notice that you have to do an IPPR, and Ryan's office is sending you all the data of how you have performed over the last several years, correct? So everything is the basis off of data. So, okay. Okay. So with that, you know, this is how the planning begins.
So, of course, the mission should be driving everything that we do as an institution, all of our planning. And the mission should describe the intended student population and the programs and educational services that the district provides to its community. That's how ACC-JC envisions a mission. And that, of course, should always be at the top of your planning process and should be driving everything that you're doing, so you can ensure that you're going to be meeting that mission. You just heard Deb talk about research and the importance of research. Of course, our planning model is based on research and data analysis, and so that comes next, obviously, in this model. That's an important element, and data analysis includes the use of, as listed up there, district data to assess its current effectiveness in meeting our mission, and also community data or external data to foresee challenges and opportunities. So that's the exercise we performed when we created the addendum to our educational master plan. Was we looked at both internal and external data to try to decide what our challenges are, and then from that developed our institutional objectives, which drive focus the institution's work over the next couple years.
Okay. Maybe you don't want to, oh, data analysis, you already did data analysis. You just talked about it.
Oh, I talked about it without it on the up there on the screen, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right.
Okay, long-term planning. So you know, our long-term planning is our educational master plan based off of data of what our challenges are. So we have the addendum, we identified our institutional goals, and then there are other long-term planning, which is based off our educational master plan, is our facilities plan. And so in the future, we're going to merge those two documents together, but we did them separate. And they should be done together, and we will be doing that in the future, but that is. So, but that holds, or that basically tells what we have to do as an institution for our future. So if you go to the next one. So that's where you come into our strategic plan. And our strategic plan is based off our institutional goals. And why we got in trouble really with ACC-JC is because we did not have measurable objectives. We couldn't measure them. We had what they said that they were aspirational. You know, and so what we really need to do is describe what we need to do to achieve our goals, and we break that down. And we know that the strategic plan informs two other very important planning processes that we have. Your IPPR, because you're going to write to those institutional objectives and goals, and it also informs our operational plans. And I gave you a great example with technology plan and how their initiatives are are supporting our institutional objectives. Does that make sense to you? Right.
And then, of course, what that drives is our decisions about resource allocation. So it's important that as an institution, we are deciding on how resources will be allocated to meet the institutional objectives in our strategic plan, to meet the initiatives that are in our operational plans and the items that, bubble up through our planning processes, through program planning and review. And so that's really a key piece to all of this, is that we're doing all this work of planning, and then once we've done all that, we've now identified what it is that's important to us as an institution, and then make decisions about resource allocation based on those items. Then after we've decided about what resources we're going to allocate, we work on implementing the plans. In particular, we work on the action steps that are identified in our strategic plan, the initiatives in some of our operational plans, and program objectives that we see identified in our institutional program plan and review documents. So that's where we do the actual work starts to happen. We see that somehow the resources are made available to focus our energies, our attention on those different aspects in the plans, and they become implemented throughout the district.
And then what do? We go back to data analysis. Let's assess what we did and how do we improve. And the whole cycle starts again. And it just is one continuous, and we keep improving from that. So that's kind of a summary of this model. Now, when ACCJ, we're going to have 6 members walking this institution or this campus. And I hope if any of you have your T-shirt of the model, you wear it on October 29th. And if anyone stops and asks you, you can describe the model to them. And it's continuous improvement based off our mission.
And there's listed up here 2 types of assessment that occurs under this step that you didn't particularly mention, but you can read those on your handouts. So as Deb mentioned, it's really this process that comprises our model of integrated planning. It's assessed every other year, and then the assessments of that are how we go about improving or making changes to those processes to ensure that we are continuing to meet our mission and address those things that we think are important to us as an institution. Okay, just a couple other quick things to mention. You heard Dr. Stork indicate that the reports are at the printer. They will be shipped off tomorrow to the Accrediting Commission. And that's the due. They're actually due on October 15th, but that's next Monday, and so we want to get them out as soon as possible. I did suggest at the board meeting last week that we make 3 copies of the show cause report, give one to Deb, give one to Dr. Stork, give one to Casey, have them each get in different cars and take different routes, drive to Novato, and hand it off personally to Barbara Bino or whomever at the commission, and that didn't go over so well, but anyway. And then, as you heard, we will have a 6-member visiting team on campus on October 29th and 30th. They will be here to, verify that what we've actually said in our show cause report, we're living and breathing and doing. And so that was one of the purposes of having this activity today. And the stuff that Deb and I have been sending out is to get the institution sort of educated and familiar with the key points or the highlights of the things we've done related to each of the recommendations. They more than likely will not be speaking with everyone here on campus, obviously, but they will, be wandering the buildings or walking around, and you may encounter one of them, or they may stop by your desk or walk into your office and ask you some questions. And so it's important that you have some familiarity with some of the things that we've done as an institution to address those recommendations.
Kevin, can we stop here for a second? Because I think we need to talk about, and this is really difficult, especially the 8 months that we've all been working, and you have to realize we're going to stay on sanction, and I think that is going to be a horrible thing for us to deal with as an institution, because we've been on sanction for 4 years. But we have to look at it as a win. We have done an incredible work. We should be very proud of ourselves, but we have to continue on, because we haven't gone through a cycle. We haven't actually implemented a long-term budget reduction plan yet, and so those are things that they'll be looking at us for. So I just want people to be aware, and I don't want everyone's hopes building up of, oh, it's a miracle and we're going to be off sanction. We have a lot of work ahead of us. There was one other point. Go ahead.
That's an important thing to mention, and as Deb said, that's something we should all accept as a positive action by the Commission. The Commission won't meet until January. They only meet twice a year, once in January and once in June. So we probably won't hear what the results of their decision is until sometime towards the end of January, first week of February. And as Deb indicated, the decision could very well be that they want to keep us on some form of sanction, hopefully not on show cause, but maybe, you know, bring us back up to probation or even warning. But it's pretty unlikely, given just the limitations of the calendar, that there's not enough time for us to demonstrate to the Commission that we've actually implemented and followed through with all of our planning processes that we've now identified and put into place. So that's, you know, a reasonable expectation, and I think a good one, because the alternative is they say, well, sorry, you haven't really done what we think you need to do, and we're going to pull your accreditation. Personally, I don't really think that that's going to be the outcome. I think we've done an incredible amount of work as an institution to address what the concerns are of the Commission. We've really taken this seriously. We didn't just sit around and complain and point fingers at folks and say, well, you know, how dare they? You know, a lot of what they've identified as us needing to address is legitimate concerns on their part, that we haven't satisfied their standards to the extent that they think we should. And we've taken that really seriously and said, okay, we agree, and now we're going to, you know, do what we need to do to resolve those issues. So I feel pretty confident that we will not lose our accreditation. From things I've been hearing around the state, people think we're doing a good job. Jack Scott gives a report regularly to the Board of Governors. They have it on their agenda now, an update on colleges that are on show cause. And according to what he tells the Board of Governors, Cuesta and Redwoods are doing a great job. He's not worried about them. If we were in San Francisco City College, maybe that'd be a different story. Fortunately, we're Cuesta. And I actually know a couple of the commissioners, and I've been speaking with them personally, and everything they've been able to tell me, they've heard nothing but good things about the work that Cuesta is doing. So I'm really confident and positive about the outcome of all of this effort.
Okay, wait, one more thing I want to add. As we go forward for training, so I want you to realize that, again, this is not a time for complaints. It's not a time for hidden agendas or your own agenda of what the institution should be doing or not doing, etc. This is a time to show our best side. This is a time that you're putting in your resume and you show what you do really well. And we have done a lot of work really, really well. So I just want, when we're going through and people talk to you, that you realize they're not your friends. They're not really your acquaintances. They're here for one thing only, and that's to look to see that our evidence supports what we have done. So be aware of that. And then the second thing is we're starting trainings, and the people that we do know that will be interviewed, we are videotaping them, and we're getting people from the Accreditation Steering Committee to interview them. We have set up questions from when they were in prior, and then other questions that we know that they will ask, and then just to practice so we're better at it, you know. So that'll be interesting. Oh, by the way, you're going to be interviewed. No.
I'm going to be interviewed? But just comment on Deb's comment, they're also not our enemies. I mean, they're our peers, and they're here to just evaluate us on what we've said we've done. So just a couple quick things to remember. You have hopefully received a copy of the Cougar Quick Notes. There's some extra copies on the back if you haven't. This is what we handed out on opening day, so you can look through that. Also, the document of the highlights that we ran through in this presentation that was sent out last week is one of our accreditation updates you have to review and study prior to the visiting team's arrival on campus. And then just a couple things to remember. What we need to do is implement and follow the plans. You know, from this point, not just until we get reaffirmed at some point in the future, but continuously. You know, we need to live and breathe accreditation on an ongoing basis. And then, as we always like to end with, just keep calm and carry on. You all are doing a wonderful job, a fantastic job. And if Dr. Stork, you have a few ending comments you want to make, and then we can take some questions if folks have any questions.
Any questions? No questions? Wow. Great. Yes. Yes, it is official. They're coming the 29th and 30th. But we haven't been officially told, but we have unofficially been officially told?
We haven't been told yet officially who the 6 members will be. Dr. Stork can probably speak to that more than we can because he's been in contact with ACCJC.
Let's thank Kevin and Deb for all the work they've been doing. Thank you. Just a couple of closing comments, one of which was, yes, we know there's going to be 6 members of the team. Normally, a follow-up team consists of 2 people, usually the committee chair from the comprehensive team and somebody else who was part of that team. Show cause is different. They don't even have guidelines or rules to dictate or to guide them through the process, so they're making it up as they conduct these particular visits. So it's been difficult to get specificity from them over this matter. The numbers of people on the team had changed over the process. We know now it's 6. The chair of the committee is Dr. Raul Rodriguez, who is the chancellor of the Rancho Santiago Community College District, which encompasses the 2 colleges of Santa Ana College and Santiago Canyon College. I've known him for about 20 years. He was a former chief instructional officer when I was a chief student services officer. And he is, and this is the other unique thing about this, he is a sitting commissioner. So he serves on the commission. He has been there reviewing our case for the last few years. So he knows us very well in terms of what we have not been able to demonstrate that we can do this. I think that's a good thing. I think because now we know there's somebody who's not going to be totally relying on a third-party perspective of what they saw on the visitation. 2 other members of the team were from the 2008 comprehensive visit, and one of those was here last year, Dr. Lisa Conyers, who was served on the team with Dr. Serban. So she's also very familiar with where we were a year ago and also over the last 3 years. So we will hear, according to the commission office, with the remaining members of the team. We've made all the reservations and accommodations for the team, where they're going to stay, what rooms they're going to use for interviews, etc. We don't know until we receive from the chair the actual individuals or positions that they want to actually interview. They'll be sent the complete show cause report with a hard copy, but also with a thumb drive with the copy and all the evidence that supports that. So they may request other information of us that's not included in there, or specific access to information that they're going to need based on what they read from our self-review. I just want to say one final thing in what Kevin and Deb were talking about, the expectations. What do we expect from the end of this process? And this is a really important one, because people out in the community are really, really excited about Cuesta being reaffirmed. They don't want to see Cuesta College fail. They want us to see. They want to see us do what we've done for almost 50 years, and that's be a beacon for community college education. So they get really confused when I go out and show enthusiasm for the progress we're making, and then that doesn't happen in January or February. So they're somewhat guarded in terms of their expectation. So let me just tell you the message I've been telling the groups I've been working with, and I've been doing a series of district dialogues throughout the county. And one of the things there's 2 areas we're talking about. One is accreditation, the other is about Prop 30. No surprise. But about the accreditation process is, and what I usually do is I usually put them in the role of a commissioner. So now you're sitting in Novato the 2nd week of January, and Cuesta College case comes forward. and you've been there, let's say, at least 2 times, and you've seen the results that Cuesta College has not been able to demonstrate that they understand integrated planning. They have not demonstrated their ability to sustain technology and the long-term fiscal planning. So what is it that's going to change their mind? Now, you've seen the work that this institution has done, and you'll have the opportunity, if you haven't, to read through the documents and look for yourself, look at the evidence, and you ask yourself, you know, yeah, I really feel good about this. I'm very proud of my institution. Even though I didn't have a direct role in this, I'm really proud of the work my colleagues put into this. So the commissioner is going to be asked to take this report and the work that we have demonstrated that we have completed up to about the 1st of October, which is just the beginning of the cycle. And they're going to be asked in January, having no knowledge of what happened from the 1st of October to the 1st of January, as to whether or not we've demonstrated enough that we can sustain the work that we have started. That's the position that they're going to be in. So what are we going to do about that? Well, I talked about the gaps. One of the gaps is we've been documenting everything we've been doing up until the time the team is going to be here. Everything we've said that we're going to do in our strategic plan, according to our calendar, and our integrated planning model, going to have completed that, documented, and have those available for them to show that what we said we're going to do, we have done it. And it's my responsibility to make sure that we have done it. If we haven't done it, then I can be held accountable for not being able to deliver on us being able to follow through. What's also going to be important is there's a period of time in November and December, which time the visiting team goes away, until the time the commission meets. We're going to be doing a lot of work during that period of time. So we're going to continue to document, and then I'm going to be sending a report to the commission the end of December in preparation for my opportunity that I have to speak before the commission, which I am going to do, to make sure that they understand the seriousness in which this institution has taken our responsibility to be compliant with all of the standards. I will also have the opportunity to review the visiting team's report. Once they leave and they write the draft, then I have the privilege of being able to review it only for correcting content error or factual error. I can't comment on opinions or their assessment, but if it's based on faulty information, I can challenge that. That'll also give me a pretty good idea about where this team is going in terms of what's going to happen at the commission level, especially when one of the members the chair is on the commission. So those are the other opportunities we will have to tell our story and to reassure the commission that this college is fully on board with not a 6-year event, but a daily practice of how we do business. And that's what accreditation requires. So stay tuned. We'll keep you informed. As soon as we know who the team is, we'll give you, we'll give the scouting report, and we'll publish pictures, DNA, blood type, you name it, favorite ice cream, you name it, we'll have it available for you so that when they walk on campus, you know more about them than you do probably a working colleague. Now, as Deb said, we will be doing some intense training and preparing people. It's like preparing for a deposition. You know, we want to take people through, make them feel comfortable, and not be shell-shocked by a question that they wouldn't have anticipated. So, but we welcome them. We're so tired of being on sanction that we want this process over with, and we want to make sure people understand what a fine college we have and what you are doing in order to do your part to make it that way. So thank you for taking the time to be here. Remember, this is videoed. It will be posted on our website, so please share that with your colleagues or people that ask you questions. Say, you know, don't rely on locker room or hallway chatter. Go online and check it out for yourself. This will also be viewed on Channel 19 with Charter Cable through the county schools office. So we want it to be public. We want it to be transparent so that people know what's going on at Cuesta College. Thank you for coming. Ethan has it.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, good job. Good work.